Last night I watched Terrifier 3 for the first time. I had tried watching the Terrifier 3 movie before, but I was just too tired that night and fell asleep. Not because the movie was boring or anything like that, I was genuinely just tired. So yesterday I woke up and I thought, you know what? I'll watch it. I may as well. There's a fourth one coming out, so I'll watch it. And after watching it, I've now seen all of the projects that have Art the Clown in them, so I think, you know what? Let me make a video ranking what my least favourite Art the Clown project was to my most favourite. I have had to or chose to leave a couple of things out here. For example, I've left out a short film that Damien Leon made. It's like 20 minutes long or something. It seemed like a tester for Art the Clown because it was made before All Hallows Eve or Terrifier or anything like that, and it had Art the Clown in it. But while I was watching it, I was like, this seems very familiar. And it turns out he used that short film in All Hallows Eve. So I decided to leave the short film out as a standalone thing and just incorporate it with All Hallows Eve, because the short film, the entire 20-minute short film, is in the movie All Hallows Eve. Like, the entire thing is the exact same. So I thought I'll forget that part. I've also left out the other two All Hallows Eve movies because none of them have Art the Clown in them, so I thought it would be an unfair ranking if they were on screen. And I also left out something called A Very Special Terrifier Christmas because I tried watching it and I can't find it anywhere. As far as I'm aware, it's streamed on one service in the US, and even when I go onto that service, I still can't find it. I don't know if that's because I'm not in the US, but it just says it doesn't exist, pretty much. So I don't know if this is some sort of lost media. I could only find one clip, and it was like 10 seconds on Instagram, and it was just Art the Clown sitting by the fire, and then it just cuts off saying, this will stream soon on and in the service. But I couldn't find it anywhere. Like, you go hunting yourself. A Very Special Terrifier Christmas. Tell me if you find it, and tell me how it is if you do find it, because I couldn't find it for the life of me. So that's the four things I'm gonna leave out. That special Christmas thing that is unfindable, the All Hallows Eve thing, the little short film, and the other two All Hallows Eve movies. So we're gonna be ranking Terrifier, Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3, and the first All Hallows Eve movie because they all contain Art the Clown. So without any more blabbering, let's just get straight into it. My number 4 spot, we have Terrifier 2. This might disappoint some people, I'm not too sure. I love all the Terrifier movies, including All Hallows Eve, right? Don't get me wrong. But I just thought Terrifier 2, they really reached for that line and sometimes even tickled over the line of, okay, this is ridiculous. Like with some of the kills, it gets to a point where you're watching it, and it happens in all the Terrifier movies where you'll be watching it and someone will be getting absolutely mutilated, destroyed, chopped into pieces, and you're like, wow, how's that person still alive? Because they're still wriggling around and screaming. But I think Terrifier 2 kind of crossed that line to a point where it wasn't like, oh god, how's that person alive? It was more a serious question of, how the hell is that person alive? For example, I don't remember the character's name, but he killed a girl in her bedroom, and her mum walked in, and the girl was still alive. Art was like cutting her like fucking something out of Dexter, like the Bay Harbor Butcher. She was covered in blood. Her scalp was cut. I'm pretty sure. I think her head was peeled back. Her arms were all cut up. Her leg, I think, might have been cut off or something like that. It was just the most horrific scene I've ever seen, and the poor woman was still alive somehow. That for me is kind of a stretch. I don't mind people being absolutely destroyed and then like wriggling around a bit or going but I think when you are dead in the sense of looking like a corpse that's been rotting for a year, I think you should lay off on all the breathing and wriggling around. I think you should just be dead. However, I don't think Terrifier 2 was an awful movie. I didn't really like what they did with the ending either, where they made Sienna like this magical god being superhero. It kind of just spoiled it for me. I know she's like that in the third movie as well, but it's not as superhero-like. She just fights him off, but we'll get to that when we talk about the third one. As for the second one, she held her breath underwater for like 10 minutes, and then she like used this special sword and cut his head off in a clean swipe and stuff like this. And it just kind of, at the end of the movie when we're watching all that part, it just kind of brought me out for a minute, like an outer body experience, and I kind of forgot I was watching a Terrifier horror movie, because the first one before it was just pure horror, disgusting blood, gore, kills, jump scares. And then the end of the second one, it just kind of turned into some sort of fantasy movie, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But again, that wasn't the death of Art the Clown after getting his head cut off, because he is also an almighty being, so it's kind of a superhero versus supervillain type of thing. But Art the Clown is in my number 4 spot. I just didn't enjoy it as much as any of the other 3. But now, we can move on to my number 3 spot. I almost stuttered. All Hallows Eve is in my number 3 spot. I liked All Hallows Eve. Might be a bit of an, an outlandish opinion. I know a lot of people didn't like All Hallows Eve as much as any of the Terrifier movies, but I did. I thought it's obviously a different actor who plays Art the Clown in the All Hallows Eve movies. It's David Howard Thornton. Jesus Christ, David Howard Thornton. Let me make sure I've got that right. Oh fuck it, I can't find it. David Howard Barton. David Trevor Norton is the one who plays Art the Clown in not All Hallows Eve, the Terrifier movies, and in this All Hallows Eve movie, it's a different actor. I forget the guy's name, but I didn't think he done a terrible job. David Howard Morton, is more of an animated kind of Art the Clown. Like, he's much more more facial expressions and moving his arms a lot more, and finger wiggles and expression. Just everything he done was more out there and more animated than the guy in All Hallows Eve. But for some reason, it made it more of an uncomfortable feeling. Like, it's the same feeling I get when I come across a TikTok and it's showing all these different clips of backrooms spaces or liminal spaces. I get this kind of strange, uncomfortable feeling. That's more the feeling I got from All Hallows Eve, the guy who portrayed Art the Clown in All Hallows Eve, as opposed to Howard David Schnorton. But yeah, I did enjoy All Hallows Eve. Just for those who haven't seen it, I think you should go and watch it. But it's how do you explain it? It's kind of like Goosebumps in a sense, like a bunch of different Goosebumps episodes mashed into one movie. Plot is basically this woman, I believe, I haven't seen it in a while, but I think this woman's babysitting some children, and they come home from trick-or-treating, and they pour their candy out on the table, and a VHS falls out, and on this VHS is all these different kind of short movies that all in some way involve Art the Clown. And she ends up watching them, and then she gets haunted by Art the Clown herself. And I thought all the short horror movies themselves were good. I didn't see a problem with any of them. Like I said, they made a 20-minute... It was almost like a pilot to the Terrifier movie, and it was one of the short horror films. They just kind of took it out All Hallows Eve. No, they would have made that first, because that came out before. So they would have made that and then put it in the All Hallows Eve movie. It's one where this woman goes to a gas station, and that's where she meets Art the Clown, and then she gets into some sort of car crash, and it's because of Art the Clown, something along those lines. But yeah, I thought the guy played Art the Clown very well, way different to how Bobby Choward Corton did. I'm not making fun of his name, by the way, I just don't remember it. But yeah, I did like All Hallows Eve. I haven't seen any of the other two, like I mentioned at the start, because they don't involve Art the Clown. It's some sort of pumpkin guy, which is just not really appealing to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to be scary. But yeah, that's my thoughts on All Hallows Eve. Now we can move on to my number 2 spot between Terrifier and Terrifier 3. Ooh, we've got the first Terrifier movie and the most recent Terrifier movie. In my number 2 spot, we have the most recent Terrifier movie, Terrifier 3. There was nothing wrong with this movie. It was a toss-up. It was like a 49-51% on what one would be in the first place. And I just think the original Terrifier was scarier than the third one. I don't really get scared by horror movies. The last time I had to look away from a screen because it made me feel physically sick with fear is when I watched the movie Barbarian. I get more disgusted by stuff than anything. And in the Barbarian movie, I'll just point out real quick, there was this big, scary monster that had sagging boobies, and she tried to breastfeed a guy because he wouldn't drink from a milk bottle, and it was just disgusting, and it made me really uncomfortable, and I slept with my lights on that night. But that's basically the point. Terrifier 3, like I mentioned, I watched it yesterday, so my brain is still quite fresh on it. I definitely thought this was the more gruesome movie out of all 4 of these movies. I thought the kills were more gruesome. Jesus Christ, I thought a stuttering fit there. I thought the kills were more gruesome. I thought the way the kills were done were very well executed. I thought they were much smarter and played out. And I saw some sort of Comic-Con panel that Damien Leon was on, and he said he put a lot of effort in Terrifier 3 to more, coming up with smarter ideas for the kills, like the shower scene, arguably one of the best Terrifier kills in all of Terrifier, where there's boy and a girl. I say a boy and a girl, they're like, I don't know, 20s, early 20s, so I'll say a man and a woman for safety reasons. Man and a woman are doing the dirty in a shower, and then Art just busts the door down with a chainsaw, and then he starts chainsawing them, and he cuts the guy's leg off pretty much. I mean, the guy's leg is hanging off, cuts into the guy's hand, his hand is total, the guy's crawling away. While the guy's crawling away, Art chainsaws the hell out of this girl, who's like this huge fan of him. Like, she's got a whole podcast dedicated to Jonathan and Sienna's story about their encounter with Art the Clown, and she's like an Art the Clown fangirl. But her mood quickly changes after she starts getting chainsawed by the man himself. And then after he kills her in the shower, he then rips the boyfriend's leg off, and then he sticks the chainsaw up his starfish, and then kind of cuts it up his back, and then he turns him over and cuts through the meatballs and the sausages. And yeah, it was just a really wacky kill. One of probably the best kills in Terrifier as a franchise. But I just didn't think it was as good as the first movie. However, I did like the fact that they kept the kills reasonable. Like, there wasn't really any kills in this movie where I was like, okay, that would never happen. The one I got closest to is when he was pretending to be Santa in the mall, which, first of all, what child is going to mistake Art the Clown, a literal clown-faced, bloody hand killer, for Santa just because he's dressed in a Santa costume? Like, we all know Santa is a white guy, he's fat, he's got a beard. We all know that. So, that was funny to begin with, that the kids were that stupid. But then one of the kids had this present, and he opened it up, and it was just a bomb. And I actually made the joke in my head before, while the kid was unwrapping it. I was like, oh my god, it's going to explode. And then 10 seconds later, it actually did explode, and like 4 people died from the explosion. So I thought that one was edging closer to that line of ridiculousness. But again, I guess it's passable, because, I mean, it's doable, isn't it? Putting a bomb in a package, and then when you open the package it explodes. It's doable. Unlike freaking surviving a mutilation. But anyway, we're past Terrifier 2. We're past that. Yeah, I enjoyed Terrifier 3. I liked the whole Christmas thing. I wish we saw more of Jonathan. We didn't really see a whole lot of Jonathan. And then it turns out, at the end of it, he was just dead. Like, we didn't even see him get killed. We just saw his head. And then they were like, oh, that's your little cousin. Surprise, surprise. It's not your little cousin. Look, we're putting Jonathan's glasses on it. It's Jonathan. But it was just like this skull with like a couple of sprinkles of flesh and blood on it and some rats on it. Whether or not it was actually Jonathan, I don't know. I initially just took it at face value and assumed it was Jonathan. However, in that same Comic-Con interview I saw with Damien Leon, he said he can't confirm whether it is Jonathan. So I think taking it at face value at this point is kind of ridiculous, because you can't really take it at face value after Damien Leon himself has said, I can't confirm whether it's Jonathan. Because if it was Jonathan, and you could take it at face value, he would have just said, yes, it's Jonathan, obviously. But he didn't. So whether or not Jonathan is still alive, or whether or not that was him, I can't confirm. I don't know. I don't make the scripts. Now, before I run out of breath and pass out on the spot, we can move on to my favourite Terrifier movie. Remember, all of these videos are my opinion. These aren't fact. These are just my opinion. I think the best Terrifier movie out of the franchise, including All Hallows Eve, is the first Terrifier. I was more scared watching the first Terrifier. I was younger. Like, how old would I think I was maybe 14 or something when I watched the second one. So I must have been about like 11 or 12 when I watched the first one. I watched it with my dad, alright? Don't worry, my parents aren't irresponsible like that. I watched it with my dad and my sister. And it did scare me. Like, I was cautious walking upstairs and playing Fortnite in my room. Or OG Fortnite. I was cautious because I thought Art the Clown was going to come out of my closet or crawl from under my bed and torture me and kill me. Obviously, now I know that's not going to happen. He would never come at someone like me. Look at this physique. But yeah, I was definitely more scared watching Terrifier, and I even watched it back maybe like a year ago. I rewatched the first Terrifier movie, and I still get more frightened, I guess you could say. I'm more creeped out by it than any of the other ones. That's what I mainly watched Terrifier 3 for yesterday, was because I wanted to see if it would be scarier than the first one, and I just didn't think it was. I thought it was obviously a lower budget because it was the first Terrifier movie, and you can tell it's a low budget because there's no background actors or anything. The actors you see on screen are the actors that are in the movie until they die. There's no like people walking around in the background, people walking around in the background or anything like that. It's just the actors that are cast have some sort of main role in the movie, which I think they executed the entire movie very well, seeing how they only had a small budget on it. And one of the most gruesome, horrendous kills is in that one, in my opinion anyway. You know, I think it's just above the shower scene, is where he kidnaps this girl, and he's like got one, I can't remember her name, it's been a while since I've seen it, got one of the main characters tied to a chair, and then he like unveils this curtain, and it's her friend hanging upside down, like her legs are like this, both like her feet are tied and her body's coming down and her legs are spread and she's naked. I'm trying not to be too explicit. And then he takes like this saw and he just starts sawing through the middle of her, from her vajiji to her forehead, right? He just saws straight through the middle of her while he's got her friend tied up there watching, and it's just a truly disturbing scene. Again, she doesn't die until the saw gets to like her chin. It cuts her body in half and she doesn't die until it touches her chin. It's like her head is like the main source of life. Like she could live without a body. But anyway, I'll stop making fun of it now because it was a wacky scene. But nonetheless, I just did think Terrifier was scarier. The part that creeped me out most in the first Terrifier movie is when he cut off the woman's like breasts and hair or something like that. I think he like cut off her breast to the neck, and then he cut off her scalp and wore it as a wig, and he pretended to be her dead. I just thought that was really creepy, especially how, and that one's not a reach that the woman was still alive, because you can for sure survive being skinned, right? Like, it's not like your heart's getting cut into or your brain's getting cut into or anything like that. You're just skinned. So I don't think it was a reach for that character surviving. I think she died in the end eventually, but yeah, I just thought Terrifier was the better movie, the scarier movie, the creepier movie, freakier movie, more uncomfortable movie out of all the Terrifier movies and the All Hallows Eve movie. I was debating whether to hold up on making this video until Terrifier 4 came out, but I decided, you know what, I'll fuck it. I'll just make the video, and when Terrifier 4 comes out and I watch it, I'll just make a separate video on that, and then when that time comes, I'll just slide that into the ranking somewhere, wherever I think it fits. So, there you go. There's my ranking to the Terrifier movies, including the All Hallows Eve movies. Like I mentioned, I wasn't going to involve the other All Hallows Eve movies. And this fucking A Very Special Terrifier Christmas, I searched high and low for about an hour to try and find something from this, and I couldn't find it. Like, look, this is a picture I could find from it. That's the most I could. This is an image from the A Very Special Terrifier Christmas 2024 that I could find from it. I couldn't find any clips other than that, like, announcement, trailer, teaser thing on Instagram. I couldn't find anywhere to watch it. This is all I could find, was this picture. So, anyone out there, if you can find it or you've already seen it, let me know how it is. It might just be an American thing because I can't find it. I'm in the UK. I'm not gonna lie, I tried to use a VPN and I still couldn't get onto it anywhere. So let me know. Just let me know how it is, or if you found it, and if you've seen it, yeah, let me know how it is. So that's it. Terrifier.
Drop on by the Clown Cafe, your favorite meals on wheels. The menu is disgusting and it's full of special deals.